So hello folks, welcome back to my channel. This video is going to be about the student-teacher system. I've already covered that a little bit in the previous Big Bang video, but I only covered in a very tiny amount, and it was not very detailed, and I was not satisfied by the way it went, and so I invested some time to make it a little bit more sophisticating and reflect something which could actually be used. The way I'm going to demonstrate it is I'm going to use this 4-channel plane. It has a throttle, rudder, elevator and ailerons. And of course I'm going to use my DEY transmitter as the master. And this is the transmitter which had been included in this plane originally. And the outputs from this transmitter are received by this, I don't know if you can see it, this tiny little brick which had been mounted in the plane. I removed it from there because I'm using Jetty, RX and TX systems, and now I'm going to use this one as the student receiver. The structure will be that this device outputs this serial PPM signal. This is going to be the input of this external I/O device, and from there the external I/O device sends the inputs from the student system as numeric values to the host system. I'm going to plug everything in. Until now I've only made up the settings for the plane to work from the main controller, so I can show you that real quick. The throttle is going to scream a bit, so it becomes a little noisy. So that was the throttle. Then we have the ailerons and the rudder, the elevator and the rudder. So now I'm going to plug in the student receiver. As you can see, the LED, I think you can see it, the LED on the student receiver is blinking. That means it's currently not binded to the transmitter, which I'm going to do now. It's also blinking, and now it's armed, and the receiver has stopped blinking. And as you can see, when I'm moving these sticks on the plane, currently nothing is happening. So the setup right now is currently only the master controller has access to the plane. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up now this the student access, and first of all I'm going to mount this camera that you can see what I'm doing in the menu. So I have hooked everything up. First I'm giving a little intro to the inputs of the transmitter, of the main transmitter. On the top right there are 4 2-position switches, 1, 2, 3, 4. And on the top left there are 2 3-position switches, which are 5, neutral, 6, 7, then neutral and 8. And I'm going to use almost all of these switches to create a very detailed student control. The idea is that I want to have the ability to grant access for the student to each of the actuators from the plane individually, that I can enable or disable them all individually, and I want, of course, to have a master student enable disable. And the way I'm going to set this up is that I'm going to use the switch number 3 for the throttle. Switch number 4 is the student rudder enable disable, and on the 5 and 6 switch I'm going to place the elevator, and on 7 and 8 I'm going to place the ailerons. And since I'm having 3 positions on the left side, I can not only create a 100 or 100% or 0% access for the student, I also can say, okay, you can use the ailerons at 50%. So that means I'm going to have the idea that I can grant access for the elevator and the ailerons with 0, 50 and 100%. So that's the idea. So I'm going to start off creating the access for the throttle. So I'm going to the channel manager slot. So we have the junction gas, and the T stands for teacher. And now I'm creating a junction for the student. I created 2 of them, so I'm going to delete one of them. Okay, I'm going into this junction and rename it to junction gas student. And now I'm going to add a new composition. Yes, a new composition, and this composition is composition gas student. And here I'm adding a module. And I'm going to add the analog digital converter module, which reflects numeric values. And as I said already in an earlier video, here you can choose the channel, the input channel, and channel 0 to 3 are reflecting the 4 directions of these sticks, and everything above 3 reflects everything which is coming externally, in this case meaning the sticks from the student transmitter. So I have to check out which of the external inputs are the throttle. When I'm going to choose that, probably the motor will crank up and you will hear a little screamer. Going to tune that down in the video. Okay. Okay, I already found it. It's already the channel 4, which is coming externally. So you can see when I'm moving the throttle stick that the motor accelerates. Pleasant sound, isn't it? Okay, I'm already happy with this. Oh no, I'm not already happy with this. Now the point is, how can I enable or disable the access of the functionality from this stick? I'm going to add another module, which is going to be a scale switch. And the scale switch does is I can bind this gain switch with this inputs to. When I'm choosing the input, I'm choosing the stick which is associated to this position. So I'm going to leave the 0, so input 0 is a default, and that's if none other is activated, position 0 kicks in, and that's what I'm going to do now. So first I'm going to set for position 1 the input one. No, I wanted to put it on 3, and you can see here in the right bottom corner when I'm using this, it's going to position 1. Yes? Okay, it's going to position 1. And in position 0, I want the stick to have no access. That means the scaling, I'm going to tune down the scaling to 0. 0. And another 0. So that means as long switch number 3 is down in the bottom position, nothing is happening here. And when I flip the switch, it works again. So that means with switch number 3, I can control the student's access to the throttle individually. And now I'm going to do the same thing for the rudder. Okay, we're going all the way up. I think this is the rudder. Elevator, no, this is the elevator. Channel 3 is rudder, here's the rudder. I'm going to add another junction and rename it to junction rudder student. it's the same procedure. I'm going to add the channel select, and so okay, this is the wrong. Yes. Okay, now I'm going to use the left stick as the rudder, so you can see when I'm moving it that the number from the selected channel 6 is changing, and as you can hear it, it's going to I can show you, it's going to the rudder from the plane. Okay. And now, once again, I'm going to do the enable disable. Once again, I'm going to choose the scale switch and placing in 2 positions. In this case, I'm going to choose number 4 as the standard, and I'm going to set down position 0 as well to 0%. Okay, as you can see, now it's in the bottom position, default position, nothing is happening, and when I put switch number 4 to top position, the student has access to the side rudder, and the same still applies for the throttle. Okay. Now I'm going to do the elevator on the switch 5 and 6. Okay, elevator was channel 2, same thing, creating junction, it's going to be junction elevator student and composition. Elevator student, the module, setting up the ADC selects. This is the right one. Let me check. This thing has a system for where the brick uses some flight assistance. I'm not sure if it's switched on or off. I have to check which is the correct position. Yeah, okay. Yeah, it was switched on. Now the flight assistance is switched off. Okay. So now you can see that I have access on the elevator. Okay, and now I'm going to set the 0, 50 and 100% access control. I'm going to add once again a scale switch, and in this case the scale switch gets 3 positions since I have a 3-position switch. So tapping add 3 times, and now here comes a little difference. The top of the switch is connected to input 5. The bottom is connected to input 6, while the middle is neutral. So that means the neutral would apply to input 0 here. Okay, that's something we have to keep in mind when doing this. That means, of course, for the head, it's easier to think, okay, bottom is position 0, middle is 1, and top is 2. And so that's how I'm going to assign the inputs, these inputs, to the positions. Oh, I have accidentally added another one. Move it. Okay, that means position 0 is going to be input 6. Input 6, position 1 is 0, position 2 is going to be input 5. And you can see that now here in the bottom corner, when I'm putting the switch down to bottom, it's position 0, in the middle it's position 1, and on the top it's position 2. So 0 is going to be 0%. Position 1 is going to be 50%. Oh, that was too far. Okay, now it's kind of putting it all to the bottom, and you see I'm moving the elevator stick, nothing is happening, same game again. In the middle I have, you can see that I have 50%, I don't know, it's only moving very slightly, and if I put it to the top where it has 100%, it's moving more. Okay, now I'm going to do the same thing for the ailerons. I'm only going to do it for one aileron because the aileron is using 2 channels, and it's a redundant procedure. Actually, it's already redundant to the elevator. I'm just doing it for the records. Okay, so I'm going to channel, I think the channel 4 is one of the ailerons. It's going to be the right aileron. I think I'm going to use the left one. That's easier for me to show you. First, you need a new junction, which is junction aileron left. Left. It keeps up eating the letters. I don't know why. And enter. Okay, it's because I pressed the wrong button. So much for that. Okay, now the new composition, which is composition aileron. Correctly, it's spelled aileron student left, and here I'm going to add also a select, which is, you will see, I think it's probably number 7, I guess. Is it? Yes, it is. So you can see it has a huge offset. I'm going to compensate that when I'm moving the right stick on the horizontal axis. It's accessing the aileron. I'm going to compensate this offset right away, which is the game at, I'm going to add a custom switch, and here I'm only adding one input, which I'm going to leave at 0, which is the default, and I'm going to change this value. Okay, so now you can see it's somewhere in the area of neutral. Okay, so now, as I said, I'm going to leave out the right aileron because it's the same procedure and it's just more... no, I forgot to set up the individual access control. I'm going to use a scale switch once again, and once again with 3 positions, and now this time position 0 is going to be input 8 with 0% on both sides, and position 1 remains 0, which is going to be 50% on both sides. And this is going to be input 7, which is 100%. So I'm going to leave that. And as you can see, once again, now it's set to 50. The switch now is set to middle position, which is 50%. When I'm controlling the aileron, it's only moving a little bit, and when I'm putting it to the top, it's moving a lot more. So if I'm putting all these switches to the top position, the student gets full access to the plane, which is the throttle, the rudder, the elevator, and the ailerons. And you can imagine that when it's coming to critical situations, it will become a hard task for the operator, also for the teacher, to switch off all these 4 switches immediately, super fast, and then take control back of the plane and catch it up before it touches the ground. So it would be handy to have a master control switch, and this is what we're going to do now. I'm going to use the input switch number 1. This is on the right thing, this the very most on the right. That's very intuitive to use. That's a switch with an outstanding function like this on a place which is coupled intuitively in your brain. So for me, this is the one on the very right. Okay, so I'm going to start off with the throttle. I'm going to the student structure, and I'm going to add another module, as I'm going to add another scale switch. I have to choose this one on the second position, and I'm going to add 2 positions. In position, I'm going to set this to input number 1. Input number 1 remains 100%, and as you guessed it, input number 0, input 0, when the default, the bottom one is activated, it's going to be set to 0. So, with that being said, you remember switch number 3 would have been the throttle. Now, the configuration I'm having now, I'm having the individual throttle control on switch number 3 and the master enable disable on switch number 1. The switch number 3 is in up position, which means individually it's enabled, but the global enable disable switch is on the bottom, which means if I'm pushing this switch, nothing should happen. You hear the silence? Beautiful. Okay, now I'm putting the master enable disable to the top. And here we go. So now I'm going to assign the same thing, also the same switch with a scale switch to each of these inputs. And once again I'm going to the student structure, adding another module, scale switch, getting into this, adding this, setting position 0 to 0%, and on both sides in this case mean it's the positive and negative part of the signal which is coming in from the top. So 0, this is already, okay. Now this is for the elevator, which is, I don't remember if it was 5 or which of these switches it was. Let me check that really quick. It's 6 and 5, so it's this switch. So same game again. I'm going to put, now as you can see I have placed the elevator control individual switch to 100% and the global enable to 100%. That means the student can control the elevator. Now if I'm going to put the master enable disable to bottom, that's what I wanted to have. So I'm repeating this for the aileron and the rudder, but I'm not going to explain this because it's the same procedure. That was the wrong way around. That was the rudder, which is number 4. Great. And the left aileron. Going to use, for some reason I have 2 junctions here. I don't know why, maybe I have mistyped something. I'm going to use, let me check real quick. There's only one there. Yes. I'm going to use this one, and I'm going to rename it. This is now the student junction. And I delete this composition and I place another one. I'm going in and I'm calling it composition aileron left student. I'm adding a module. Okay, that was completely free of sense. I've just deleted the student access I already made up, but no problem. Okay, adding the custom switch for creating the neutral position. And here, once again, I'm going to add a scale switch. Two positions. 0 is going to be, once again, zero. So that's it. I have the aileron on. Okay, now I'm going to. I forgot something. I have also removed the individual aileron, enable, disable. I'm going to put that in there as well. Back in, scale switch. I'm going to switch these positions. I'm going to add this one, so now I'm just saying that this one is number 8 and so on. So now we have position 0 and position 1, which means I can control the access to the aileron by this stick, and I also have the this is position here. Okay, now we have a system where I can give access for the student to each of the actuators from the plane individually, plus on the switch 1 I have a master enable disable for quick access. So that's it for this video. I think it's already enough hearing of me talking. Finally to the end I need a coffee. Yeah, this is it for this video, and I hope I find time to upload it soon, and perhaps I can see you as a visitor on my channel again. Bye!